living the dream. I'm in love with the lights. This is not just a game. This here is my life. Put the cameras on me, yeah, yeah. Put the cameras on me, yeah, yeah. Put the cameras on me, yeah, yeah. Put the cameras on me, yeah, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Live from Palm Desert in the Coachella Valley itself, it's the OZone. Who knew? I'm your host, Omar Miller. I'm here with my brother from the same mother, Terry Miller. How you feeling?
Great as usual.
Where can the people find you?
At Icons on every social media platform that exists, and it's EYECONZ.
Oh, yeah. Let's party. Got a lot to cover this week. We're going to lean in heavy now, folks, for the boxing and for our favorite sport, Major League Baseball. And we're going to cover a little tennis because that's what we're here for. We are live at Indian Wells. There's already been an upset, and we're only in the first round. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. We're going to start off with the main event. The big boys clash this past weekend, and boy, was it something special. I'm mad because I thought about going out to that fight.
And what happened?
You know what? We had to come out here to the desert to make a new edition because we got renewed for season 2 of Advantage Omar on Tennis Channel.
Yeah, but you could have made it in and out.
Would have been tough.
It would have been tough.
Would have been tight squeeze.
You've done it before.
Would have been worth it though, because these boys went out there and chunked them. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that the reason that heavyweights are called the glamour division in boxing is because you have the ability and the likelihood of a one-punch knockout. And there's a couple fellas out there in the world right now who have one-punch pop. And one of them fought on Saturday night. And I'm here to tell you, he was in a boatload of trouble.
The whole fight.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, it was Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. The heavyweight champion, the bronze bomber as monikered, versus King Kong, which is always a questionable moniker for a brother in the world. But I digress. Now, this fight was scheduled to take place last year, 2017, in, I do believe, late October, early November. And there was a problem that took place. Luis Ortiz tested positive for PEDs, which seems to be running rampant in boxing. They're going through their Major League Baseball scandal. And what ended up happening was they postponed the fight, and instead Wilder picked up a fight against Bermane Stiverne, a rematch where Bermane Stiverne looked like he had just stepped out of the conga line and stepped into the ring.
He didn't look like he stepped out of the conga line. It looked like he stepped out of the chow line.
I've been with some drinks, some limbo.
And food. Don't leave just the drinks, it's the food.
Some get low. And, and what ended up happening was, as expected, the champ put him out of there, either in the first or second round. I think it was late in the first, maybe top of the second.
Yeah, but this past weekend, he had to earn it.
He had to earn it. And you know what? I think he silenced a lot of the doubters. And yet, with a lot of people who were believers, he caused a whole lot of
panic
at the disco. But he also caused a whole lot of trepidation going forward. I spoke to a lot of people before this fight who thought that it was the banana peel match, who thought that it was the fight that was the slippery slope, because Luis Ortiz is a celebrated Cuban fighter with nearly 400 amateur fights under his belt.
And he has enough pop to put you to sleep. He carries that left.
Now, when we spoke about the analysis before, what I predicted would happen happened. And because, in my opinion, Luis Ortiz is not really 37 years old. Like they're saying he's 37 years old.
What are you giving him?
I say it's maybe 47. Maybe 40.
You go that high. I think 45. He's about 43, 44.
Yeah, maybe. But, this is what I mean. And so I didn't feel like he was the age that he said that he was, which then in turn gave us almost a mirror of what happened to Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua last year in the sensational fight at Wembley that created the superstar that we know as Anthony Joshua. There was a lot of similarities between these two fights, and I'd love to just speak about it a little bit if you look.
It's a lot of similarities, but my problem with it is that Ortiz is not the same caliber or quality of a fighter as Klitschko.
Oh, I hear you. So I'm not saying they're exact.
But the way that it played out is a lot like.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Because Klitschko has been a dominant champion for a couple of decades almost.
Yeah, and his age is verified.
Yes.
and at 41 or 42, you could see when he got put on his back, he had the heart and the skill to get up and hold.
Exactly.
And then he put Anthony Joshua on his back, and he just did not have enough to get him out of there. And this is what we're seeing about Father Time being undefeated.
Right.
We just saw it with Luis Ortiz. I still don't think anybody else really wants to fight Luis Ortiz, honestly,
he's a
in the
problem.
division. He's a lefty with pop that has good defense.
And that was the first time, the third time he went down 2 times in that fight. So that's the third time he's been down.
Really?
Yeah, that was the second time he got knocked down. The first knockdown of that fight.
What's his second knockdown of his career?
Second knockdown of his career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, he had a great attitude about the whole thing, in my opinion. I was really impressed with Luis Ortiz. One, because you got to know him a little bit better in those awesome, day in the life kind of things.
And he's not a bad guy. We'll get to Canelo, but and Canelo's not a bad guy either. But one of the things is that when a guy gets caught on performance enhancing drugs, you feel like, you have some kind of feeling towards it, like he might be a bad guy or a bad person.
Yeah, and that's just public perception. And this is the danger of getting caught in a sport like this when you're cheating. It's very dangerous because it can go the wrong way.
Right.
So, with that, the fight starts, and I've been going back and forth with people online, and I don't know. I don't know if people aren't listening to the podcast to know I'm super pro Wilder. I love Deontay.
You've
Wilder.
always loved Deontay.
I've loved him since the word go.
He's always been a doubt for me.
Yeah.
And he still is, even more so now.
Well, you know what? I love his heart, and I love that he, I love that he's an American champ that picked up boxing, looks like late. He more looks like a basketball player than a boxer. In this fight, I thought it was interesting because Deontay came in at 214, and that's really light for a heavyweight that's 6'7".
Yeah, and I don't think that he can beat Joshua coming in at 214.
I don't either.
If Joshua makes it past Parker.
And Ortiz did not use his full 240 properly, in my opinion, because when he had him in trouble, had he laid on him, that would have done a lot of damage.
Take away his legs. It's like being in the post.
It is. And it's hard to carry your weight and somebody else's weight, especially when you're the big fella. So, there was the fight starts immediately. Wilder is put on his horse. Immediately. I don't know who watched this fight who thought that Wilder was not in trouble, but I keep talking to people online who like to think that, oh no, he was playing. He wasn't playing.
Right. He wasn't playing. What was he playing with? Playing with
fire.
Trying not to get knocked out?
Yeah, he was playing, but early in the fight, he did not come out sharp snapping his jab. You could see that he was very interested in finding out about Luis Ortiz's power.
Yeah,
you could see that he was fully aware that this was his biggest test. Mm-hmm. You could see that. And what ended up happening was he went out there and Luis Ortiz jabbed him, hit him with a big left when Deontay tried to fire a right and missed.
And it changed his life.
Deontay was on his horse for the next 3 rounds. He barely threw any punches.
Right.
Going into the
5th
round, I had it 4-0.
Yeah, and I just referred to the 7th is because when the 7th is when he started making the comeback by knocking down Ortiz.
But no, he knocked him down in the 4th or the 5th.
No, in the 5th.
Yeah, the 5th.
And
that's what I was saying. Going in, and I just tweeted, man, I got Ortiz pitching a shutout right now. He dominated distance. He had the champ moving in reverse. You could see the jab was annoying him. And
just being a southpaw annoyed him.
It annoyed him, and his footwork was superior. His fundamentals were superior to Wilder's.
Yes.
And this is ultimately what we need to talk about, because Wilder's fundamentals
are flawed. Seriously flawed.
And when you fight somebody else that is at the same level in their career, not just the same level, because I would say Luis Ortiz, ability-wise, a functional, what's the word I'm trying to say? Fundamentally wise, functionally, he's superior to Wilder. Age wise, he is now past his prime.
Right. Well, in that sense, that's why Wilder shouldn't have really been competitive if Ortiz was the age that he said he was. Because if Ortiz was the age that he said he was, instead of being probably like 45 or so, then he probably would have knocked out Deontay Wilder.
I think he gets him out of there in the 7th if he's younger. But what happened is the same thing that we've seen happen about 39 times with Deontay Wilder.
That right comes into play.
Which is he's in trouble until he's not. And
that's the big boys.
And that's the big fellas. And that dude got that thunder in his right. And he told us on the OZone podcast, he baptizing folks with that fire. And he baptized Luis Ortiz. And you saw Luis Ortiz got dropped. It was interesting, though, because I felt like he wore that knockdown as good as you can wear a knockdown.
Yeah. And you knocked off his equilibrium, hit him right on top of the temple. And it wasn't like a big blow. It's a big blow in this.
It was a balance problem.
Yeah, it was a balance problem, not like getting hit on your chin.
Yes.
Which actually disconnects your power when you have to pay your power bill.
Yeah, but you didn't get an extension.
Right, you didn't get that extension. So what happened was that he got up and he pretty much worked his way through it.
Well, he got up, and that was towards the end of the round. So he got up and he gets himself back together. That put Deontay back into the fight, obviously. So you go from 4 rounds to none to pretty much 4 rounds to 2.
Right.
With that knockdown.
And but even with that knockdown, I still would have went with a 10-9 round because he was in trouble actually that round. He was really in trouble. It wasn't like and when I say trouble, he wasn't throwing enough effective punches. It was a lot of pity pat going on, and he was literally being bullied in the ring.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go as far as to say 10-9 because he was winning the round, but the knockdown, you'd have to put the man on his back or do something even more extreme for me to give you 10-9 after getting knocked down. So for me, that in theory, that turned the tide of the fight because what you saw after that was Deontay got his championship swagger back. He got his confidence back. And he went to put in work. And he started to put in work. He started to use his jab. But Ortiz was still there. And what this does to me is show you a sneak preview of the danger that Deontay Wilder could be in for when he meets up with somebody else who has as much power as he has.
Yes. And size.
And size.
More size.
So what ends up happening is, you guys probably all watch the fight. What ends up happening is an epic battle where Ortiz comes back and storms back. And in the 7th round, at the end of the 7th round, Ortiz has Wilder on the ropes. Literally, it looks like he's about to get knocked out. And it looked bad for the kid. Looked really bad for the champ. And he was able to stay on his feet. And Ortiz just did not have that extra gear that you have when you're young.
Right.
When you have natural growth hormone.
Like when we watched Klitschko fight, and I told you that he was just a tick behind. Like we're watching Tom Brady, just a tick behind.
That's it. That's it. It's father time. It's unbelievable. It's really fascinating.
And you want to execute, and your
mind knows what you're supposed to do.
But your body, that signal's not being sent fast enough.
It's just, your synapses just aren't there like they once were. Which is crazy. And it's nuts. And so what ends up happening is Deontay is even in trouble in the round that he ends up delivering the hammer. It was funny because when he got Ortiz in trouble in the 4th, he did classic Wilder where he ran up real fast trying to get him out of there. And Wilder actually Ortiz actually popped him with a jab and a 1-2 pushed him back. In the 9th, when he got him in trouble and ultimately got him out of there, Wilder took his time and came over and got him out, but he still was wide punches, the kind of stuff that could be
glancing blows,
pawing. More so that it was. He
didn't have any movement. It wasn't calculated. He didn't take calculated risk, and that's one of the things that Ortiz did when he had him in trouble. Except he couldn't execute to the fullest extent because what Ortiz did was come and threw and basically pound his body, work him over. He had enough ring savvy to know that, you know what, this kid is young and I might not be able to take him out right now, but what I can do is to destroy his body, and
which should get rid of his power as well, which should equalize his power, but he didn't commit enough to the body.
He didn't commit enough.
And then the last thing that he did was when he got dropped, it looked like there was a machismo that clicked on in his mind.
Yes.
Because he didn't hold. And instead he decided, you know what? The fight is about to end right now. One of us is getting knocked out.
Somebody getting brain damage.
Somebody needs brain damage.
I'm here to get it and receive it. And give it and receive it.
And it looked like he gave some because after the fight, Deontay Wilder was talking all over the ring.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Look like he hit that hen.
That hen dog was taking effect. I was really happy to see, by the way, Deontay come out with Queen Bee. Lil' Kim gave her some love in Brooklyn, in the fight in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn has shown the champ a lot of love over the years. It's really cool that he brought out a native like that.
Right.
Especially knowing how proud Brooklynites are. So the fight ends. Immediately talk turns to Deontay Wilder wasn't in trouble. He was in trouble. He'll be at the Joseph Parker Anthony Joshua fight later this month. You know he's going to cause a spectacle when he's going to jump in the ring for whoever wins.
Yeah.
Because after that fight, the belts, it will be time for a unification bout. Now, what I want to speak about for a little bit are the cards. Because although it didn't come into play, I read a very interesting article that before the fight that said you're out of your mind if you think that boxing will allow anything other than Deontay Wilder winning on Saturday night. And I read the article. It was very sharp. And it's true. Unless Ortiz knocked him out, he wasn't going to get a win. Because in the 9th round, when I would say most boxing fans had the fight 7-2 Ortiz.
Yeah.
Maybe 6-3, maybe.
Although I had a friend, Time Warp, and he felt like that Deontay was in it.
Well, the judges, if you look at their cards, had Deontay down up by 1 point. Like one of them had a draw and the other ones had him up by 1 point. And this is pre-knockout. This is Luda! Get out the way. Yeah, so it wasn't right. And once again, we're looking at a situation where whoever it is in boxing that actually is in charge, we know it used to be the mafia. Now we don't know who it is, but we're assuming that it's promoters, but we don't know.
Nah, it's promoters.
And there is no way. Go watch. I challenge you to watch the fight again and then come debate me on Twitter if you'd like. There's absolutely a 0% chance that Deontay Wilder was winning that fight when he knocked out Luis Ortiz. He won the fight. That's not even in question, but there's no way he was winning that fight. Don't lie to yourself. And he even knows because he was quoted afterward as saying, I proved a couple things in this fight. I proved that I could take a punch and I proved that I could come back.
Yeah.
He knew he was in trouble.
He knew he was in trouble.
And that's one thing that I loved. One of the reasons I love Deontay Wilder is because he's so honest.
Yeah.
He's totally honest.
He was honest when he was on the show.
Completely.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And talked about, he trains down sometimes for opponents.
Sure does. And which means that he's about to put in work because he's going to have to fight a real fighter, whether it's Parker or Joshua.
Yeah. And I think he's going to have a problem with either one of them. I think
people are underestimating Parker, to be honest.
I feel like Parker's going to give Joshua a problem, but I also feel like Joshua was going to win. But I don't see a way that, obviously there's a way because both of the they're heavy hitters, but Joshua has thump in both of his hands. And Deontay Wilder really is not one-dimensional. He's a great athlete. He has a lot of thump in his right hand. But he won't be coming down on Joshua.
This is critical. Now, everybody that you see him knock out is usually a good 4 inches at least shorter than him.
Yes.
And that one dude who was the journeyman, I think his name was Gerald Washington, who was had a fight. He was basically at the bar and they were like, hey, you're a big dude. You want to fight? He said, yeah, why not?
Come on, dude.
And he gave him problems for 5 rounds.
Yeah, that's when I really didn't care for that.
Until Deontay put him to sleep.
Yeah.
And he fought that other dude, the Latin fella that was the school teacher that gave him problems from time to time until he put him to sleep. Now, this is the thing. Those are guys who were close to his height. Anthony Joshua is maybe not the same level of natural athlete as Deontay Wilder is. Not far behind.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen Anthony Joshua, he is a specimen. I'm talking about natural athlete in the sense that you feel like he could play any sport. Deontay Wilder could play any sport. He should be able to play any sport with his physique and with his athletic ability. Yet at the same time, Anthony Joshua's skills are more refined. His fundamentals are way beyond. You never see him going wild like you see, and that matters, guys. I'm telling you, the fundamentals of this stuff, it matters.
It really matters.
It matters if we're talking about baseball. It matters if we're talking about boxing, tennis, you name it. Those fundamentals
Curling.
matter. It doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. Fundamentals are important.
That's why they made them.
That's why they're called fundamentals. And so
it's the foundation of your game.
And honestly, Wilder's going to have to work on some things. It would be great for him if he could get another fight of even if it's a tomato can. He needs more rounds. To me, the best thing that happened to him is he got 9 quality rounds in.
And he spoke about it.
And it's not his fault. This is why I don't fault him. He wants to fight.
Yes.
Nobody wants to fight him, 1. And 2, when he does fight guys, he ends up playing around.
Right.
But then he knocks him out.
Yeah, but then you're practicing bad habits.
Which is very dangerous.
And which is going to cost him in the long run when he runs into quality opponents. Like we saw Ortiz. If Ortiz was a younger guy, then Ortiz wins that fight.
And he said it afterwards. I saw him not in the ring, but afterwards he spoke and he said, man, I almost had him. I really appreciated Luis Ortiz, because for somebody who was juicing and he said he wasn't juicing. He's got another familiar sounding story or some contaminated supplement or something like that. But I say this, he came to play. He came to fight on Saturday.
Right.
And the other thing that happened was he gave it all he had. He was willing. He was game. He was completely game to shake up the world in there.
And really his pride got in front of him because if he would have just...
It didn't matter. The only way he was going to win is if he knocked him out.
And then he had a great but I felt like he had a great chance of knocking him out. He had a game plan, late. Because Deontay Wilder's body, gave him a lot of good body work. And I really would like to see how Deontay Wilder is going to recover from that beating, because he took a beating.
Yeah, he did take a beating. And he took a beating at 214.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to see the champ come in at 225 for his next fight around there, somewhere a little bit bigger.
If he fights Joshua, he's going to have to come in at that weight. If he doesn't,
you can't beat a 250-pound man at 214 unless you're a Mike Tyson type or Evander Holyfield type, and Deontay is not that.
Right. And honestly, how heavy will Joshua be once they fight?
Well,
Once they get in the ring.
No, it'll be 250. There's no weight limit, so it's not like it's not like they swell up like the little guys.
Yeah, but
so
I think
when he weighs in on that Friday at 255, he'll come in that Saturday at 256, 250. It's not like he's going to balloon up like like the little guys. But
like a lot of those boxers like to balloon up though the day of to try to prevent that knockout.
And when you're 250, you ain't worried about getting knocked out. It is what it is.
Par for the course.
I do the knocking out at 250. I'm not worried about getting knocked out. That's how I do it. Knockout. And I tell you what else. The biggest problem that I see with Joshua, and we'll see how this goes with Parker. Joshua seems to be a victim of being British. And I say that in the sense that his head talking game isn't up. He doesn't talk and isn't swaggerlicious like a lot of champs, like a Floyd Mayweather, like a Deontay Wilder, like guys that we've seen. And talking is a big portion of it, which then in turn conveys him as someone who's scared.
Right.
Because he talks like he's hesitant. And I don't believe you get to be the heavyweight champion, and he had a rough background. I don't think you get to that point by being scared. I don't think he's scared to jump in the ring with anybody. But the way that it comes off is like he's scared, which then is dangerous because belief is the most powerful thing on the planet other than God himself.
Yeah, but
at which point the other guy starts to believe that dude is scared. Now, from what I saw, what you're not going to be able to do with AJ is what he likes to do and toy around and feel out the opponent. I don't think that's going to work because Joshua has that kind of pop that Wilder has.
I think he's stronger, and I think that he has it in both hands, and Wilder's predominantly a right-handed puncher. But you know what? Everybody's susceptible to that jab, and he would have to really, really rely on it. But he can't. Joshua probably impose his size and will on him and make him backpedal, and he's not Ortiz. So if he gets you into that corner, he's great at infighting.
I was going to say the other thing is that Joshua can fight on the inside.
Yeah.
In comparison to, I haven't seen Deontay do any effective work on the inside.
Yeah, in the phone booth. And, but he got him with that uppercut this time.
Ooh, that uppercut. That was shades of Klitschko Joshua.
Yeah. I mean, that uppercut was the shot heard around the world, though. I mean, wow. My head is hurting right now. That was from last year.
And so, this is my take. I think that the cards are bogus. I think that all the refs, the judges rather, were on the take. I also think that if you watch the ref, that referee deserves to be commended. You should look up who he was because that referee could have stopped that fight in the seventh round. And he gave the champ the benefit of the doubt because Deontay was not protecting himself and he was not punching back. And that was a very, very tricky situation. Now, you could see that he was looking to stop the fight for Wilder.
Right.
And that also has to come with, a little payola, I do believe. But even with that, Wilder got the dub. It was a great test for him. I actually think he should have one more fight. I think he should look into fighting 3 times this year, or 4 times this year, because he already fought, but that one round doesn't really count. He should fight one more guy
before November when
before they get it on. I really believe that.
I feel like going back to the refs and the cards, I feel like, honestly, like I said before, they should crowdsource the cards. They should crowdsource the scoring.
I think that's a terrible idea because look at who we elected in the United States through crowdsourcing and the hacks that took place.
Right.
I can't roll.
Well, now we were fooling with blockchain. Blockchain's about security.
I don't know.
We run blockchain.
I don't think.
But you just have to get a group of people that you can feel like that have a better vetting system because obviously the system's not working now, so we can't get that much worse. I mean,
it's working. It's working for the people that pay for it, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's not just working for the fans.
Yeah, but when it's an anonymous group that's voting, then we can come out better with the right cards.
It's something that the people want to see. It's all riggable. The biggest thing, in my opinion, the biggest thing that, in my opinion, they need to do is they need to have live scoring. As an athlete, and one of the beauties of being an athlete is the ability to turn it on. You need to know where you are in the game to be able to turn it on. Most of the trainers know where they are. Most of the trainers are like, hey, you get down, baby, get down. Yeah, but that's not really most of, and they do this and they do that. That doesn't work because they don't have an actual number. You need to know I'm down by 3 points.
It's not the number that's the problem. The problem is that they're hiding behind. Nobody knows who these refs are. We can't see them. If you're going to put up the numbers, then you need to see their face because they need to be held as social ransom so we can see who's actually giving us these bad cards. And then they have to worry about the ramifications when people see them in public and point their finger at them and say, hey, you gave me that bad card. I lost my money. Vegas tricked me.
Sounds like you're advocating violence right now, and that's not what I'm saying.
No.
You're talking about seeing people in public and this and the other. What I'm
just
saying
call them
is,
out, just like they do everybody else.
And they've done that. Look at what happened to the lady at the Canelo Triple G fight, and she caught a ban.
Yeah, but they didn't know what she looked like.
They got pictures all over. She's married to the ref.
Yeah,
There's pictures
now,
all over.
This is after the fight. I'm talking about before the fight. If they see you,
that's cool. Fine. Well, all I'm saying is you can show their faces during the fight. Every round, the score should be transparent.
I agree.
There doesn't need to be a secrecy. That doesn't make the fight better because you don't know who's winning. The fighters themselves should know who's winning in the fight officially. You know who's winning, when you're the feeling of it. But officially, you should know who's winning. And that then in turn would cause all of these judges to be held accountable because they should interview them just like they interview the boxers.
Yeah, they should. But I don't agree. I think that some of the lure of it all is going to the cards at the end of the fight and saying the winner is we got 115, 113. That's cool. I don't feel like you need to, but I do feel like they need.
Then there's no way we'll ever be able to get rid of because somebody's always going to be susceptible to the bribe. Obviously, it's never been fixed.
But this is where you let people know who they are, and it sort of takes that away from them.
What that is a recipe for lunatics at the NRA that lost their money to kill people.
Out there. The NRA don't got nothing to do with that.
I'm just telling you the truth. It is what you're talking about is like putting out the names and addresses of real judges. That's what you're talking about. And because a lot of people that win and lose a lot of money on these fights, if they feel like it's one judge's personal situation and they find that person, without fail, there will be some sort of repercussion of a physical nature. I can guarantee it. And what you're saying is that somebody's just going to point them out and hold them accountable, social ransom. Unfortunately, in our society, people don't hold you to just social ransom when they lose their money. Yeah, that's not how we work as Americans. You have to be held to another sort of ransom. and I think it's dangerous. But moving on, the fight on the undercard of that Wilder Ortiz fight was also a championship fight for an interim belt, which was a rematch of a fight that, if you remember last year, ended in serious controversy. It was a fight between Andre Dirrell and Jose Uzcategui. I don't know how you say it. Uzcategui, I think is how you say it. And in the first fight, Uzcategui was winning the fight, but it was a close fight. And he knocked out Andre Dirrell after the bell in the 8th round. And it caused a melee. Dirrell's uncle jumped in and actually bombed on Uzcategui. Two-piece. One of them missed. If he'd caught that second one, he might have messed up his career.
You think so? I don't think so. I think he would be able to take it. It was a nice one, though.
He was totally unguarded. That was a total. His hands were completely down. He sucked it up.
You saw him. I watched it. He sucked it up.
He sucked up the one. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If he'd caught the second one, it wouldn't be the right way. Anywho, this go around, we're looking at the fight. This may be time for Andre Dirrell to wrap it up. Andre Dirrell's been a great champion, been a great fighter. I remember watching him for years now. And obviously their family and friends of the OZone, the Dirrell brothers, I'm a very, very, very big fan of.
Yeah.
He caught a beating on Saturday. I mean, he got beat up really bad. And to the point where they ended up stopping the fight and throwing in the towel. His corner, Virgil Hunter, ended up throwing in the towel.
He warned him several times.
He warned him several times. I can't be mad at Virgil at all.
Because he doesn't want to see anybody get hurt out there.
He doesn't want to see nobody get hurt.
I just think Dirrell took a little bit too much punishment early.
Yeah.
That was the
hard
problem.
shots.
Yeah, hard shots.
And I also think Uzcategui he's unorthodox and he has a much stronger punch than it looks like. Because you see the result is much more devastating than what you would think.
I didn't feel that way. I felt like he just took
accumulation.
It's an accumulation. He took too much early, and then he was trying to establish a jab, and I felt like he didn't make the adjustments during the fight because the jab, he never really got to establish the jab or the counter behind the jab. The right behind the jab.
Well, and that's because he was busy playing around with the southpaw.
Yeah,
he decided he was going to go southpaw to confuse Uzcategui, which didn't work, and then he went to traditional stance,
which caused him a problem,
and then he went back to southpaw.
Yeah.
So there seemed to be some sort of mental game planning problem or something like that with the fight, and I don't know what it was. But now Uzcategui is now the champ from Venezuela, and I really don't think in that 168, nobody really wants to see him at that point. He's a problem. He's
light on his feet. He's got a good jab. But everybody's susceptible in that weight category. That's where you can get knocked out as well.
Yeah, you're getting big enough so that guy's got one punch.
Yeah.
And now, which brings us to the other cards, on that same night that happened across town. These fights were taking place in Brooklyn at the Barclays. Across town at Madison Square Garden, you were dealing with the Crusher, continuing his rise back to the top. And he fought a guy that he outclassed by tons, and he beat the crap out of this guy. I think he got him out of there TKO in the 7th or 8th or something. It's very interesting to see what will happen with the Crusher, because he fought with a stablemate, this young kid, Dmitry Boliev, was the guy that we sat by at the fights. And that guy actually knocked out Sullivan Pereira in the 12th, which is impressive. Knocking out a guy in the 12th round is really impressive.
Right.
Because you know that guy is trained his whole life, and that guy knows he only has 3 minutes to go. And he punished this dude and he knocked him out. And I tell you, there's a very interesting Eastern European movement going on around that weight category. For some reason, it doesn't seem to translate into the heavyweights. But between 145
the Klitschko's.
Yeah, but I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously the Klitschko's are great champions. But between 145 and 175 is a sweet spot right now where you have Eastern European fighters making noise. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say 154. And this kid, I mean, seems like the only person he could fight would be the Crusher, but they're on the same label, so I don't know if that'll actually ever happen.
That won't happen.
So once again, we're in a tricky position with the stables. But what we need to talk about is a little drug called clenbuterol. And performance-enhancing drugs are rearing their ugly head once again, folks, and we don't know what to make of it, to be honest, because we're now looking at it in multiple sports, but right now in the sport of boxing, over the past 2 years, boxing has caught a black eye, several black eyes, because for one, I think Deontay Wilder himself has had 3 different guys pull out of fights for juicing. These are guys that continually are members of the World Anti-Doping Association, so they're subjecting themselves to the testing, so they know they're going to be tested. Canelo Alvarez has been tested 1 million times throughout his career, and he's never come up dirty. And he's always lived in Mexico. So that for this fight, for him to claim that his dirty test is because of some contaminated meat is very suspicious. Very, very suspicious. If you ask me, he has been sitting back and healing since he got beat up in September, and he literally watched this fight and realized, I didn't win that fight.
And also he realized that it didn't look like he really could knock Gennady out.
And he has to sit in the pocket and actually trade. I think he's getting baited. I actually think he has a better chance if he employs the same style of fighting that he employed this last time, because he was faster than Gennady and his movement and defense was better than it has ever been. Not
I don't
better
think
than
he'll
Gennady's.
get a decision this time, no.
He won't get a decision, but he would have to be able to trade. He would have to selectively trade in comparison to Abel Sanchez. Gennady's trainer is trying to bait him into standing in there because seems like Canelo is losing fans at a record pace. If you go, this is what I'm saying. If you go and you look on anything that has a Canelo Alvarez post after this thing, I mean, he's losing Latinos left and right, and this is his bread and butter.
Yeah, but you know what? When you test dirty like that, this is what I was speaking about earlier. When you test dirty, there's some guys who you sort of feel for, and some guys who are in a specific situation, like Canelo, who had just had a fight that he did not really win. And you see him trying to make up the difference in that loss,
right?
With the drugs,
right?
And so now you're saying, well, wait a minute, man, this dude's not really we've met him several times. He's not a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. And what I will say, for people who cheat like that, we used to play baseball with a guy who always cheated, and he really wants to win.
Yeah, he wants
Canelo
to win.
really wants to win. I respect that, but you can't respect his methodology. And if it was
not in boxing,
and if no, because that's murder.
Yeah.
Somebody's life is in danger. And then besides that, if there's another boxer that's not the big draw, then this guy would get suspended. The fight would be called off, and the guy would get suspended.
Well, that's what they're waiting for right now.
They're not going to call. It's too much money. They're not going to call this fight
Gennady
off.
is saying that he'll take a chance of not even fighting if he wants some kind of something handed down, some kind of rules or some kind of punishment.
Really?
Yeah. I'm reading it literally right now.
Oh, that's fantastic for Gennady, because Gennady has a life after boxing, and you don't want to get in there and get hurt.
Yeah, he says if you say it's okay and if it's legal, that's bad for the sport. And
He loves the sport.
And I won't even say it's boxing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's true. And this is why Gennady has subjected himself to thorough testing, and he's the one that calls for it because he hits so hard, he knocks so many people out, and people are scared to fight him. He's the one that calls for it. And because he's like, look, this is all me. There's nothing fake about it.
Even Danny Jacobs said he ran into the boogeyman. He ain't that tough. Everybody always says that he's not hitting that hard or whatever. But when we saw Danny Jacobs after the fight, he looked like he was, his head was so swollen and lumped up and everything that you can barely recognize the guy. And then with Canelo said he doesn't hit that hard, but Canelo was running the whole fight. So obviously he's doing something that make people feel the pain. And Abel Sanchez had a good point because he said that, he didn't want to hear about the contaminated meat because he said, noting that the Mexican coaches and managers are butchers and own meat markets.
Oh, good point, Abel. Score 1-2 for Abel. Now, what else I'll say is there's a lot of money on the line and there's a lot of pride on the line. Canelo, to me, seems like he's looking for a boost. And this is a drug used to cut weight and increase breathing. And he's trying to recover and boost up his stamina. And it's sad because
so sad.
It is. I'm down with Gennady actually being willing to walk away from the dough because usually guys like we had Deontay Wilder on a podcast who literally said, I don't care if Ortiz is on the juice or not. Let's go. And I think this is the wisdom that comes with age with Gennady. Gennady's an older fighter now. And he's like, I haven't playing around with my kids, man. I don't need to.
You're going to bring in a young man who's on the juice to fight me.
The guy's already in a better position. He's already in his prime.
Yes. And now you want to give him to me at this point and then want me to go out there and take a chance on getting killed, literally.
Yeah, exactly. And having permanent damage. It's a problem. Now, speaking of Danny Jacobs is just a class act. Man, I love Danny Jacobs. I got to get Danny on the podcast because Danny went, Jermell Charlo, the Charlo twins like to bump their gums. And I actually like those young boys at 154, but they ain't ready for this. And one of the Charlo brothers just got robbed in New York City, actually. Right. And you saw that. And at someone's nightclub, right? At Jay-Z's at the 4040 Club. Some women took his stuff for International Women's Day, actually. That's a bad joke. Sorry, guys. but ladies and gentlemen, tip your waiter. He'll be here all night. No, so, yes, they jacked his man bag, which happened to have $40,000 in it and a bunch of jewels. Now, one of the Charlo brothers has come out of his neck talking about Danny Jacobs having the game twisted, used some expletives and this, that, and the other, and basically said Danny Jacobs ain't shit. Is what he came out and said. And Danny Jacobs responded on Twitter immediately and said, hey, your time is coming, young man, but when you're ready, we can mix it up. and then the guy didn't respond. Charlo didn't respond. And Danny's like, he keeps bumping his gums. I haven't heard nothing about a proposed fight or nothing else.
They don't want to see him.
Sure don't, because Danny's a legit 160, and in my opinion, the second best heavyweight, middleweight in the world.
Right.
I actually think he has worked for Canelo. I don't think he's a juicer. I think he's a naturally clean guy.
And a good fighter.
And a great athlete.
Yes.
And a champion because he overcame cancer. And a good guy. So, they're trying to, I like Danny for a lot of reasons as a fighter, and I like him more as a man because he's one of the guys that's trying to class up boxing. And I really appreciate that because we don't have a lot of that.
Right. And, he shouldn't stoop down to that level.
He didn't. Yeah. He didn't use the expletives. He didn't do any of that. He just let him know that if you want problems, I'm here.
And they're trying to make some money. Unfortunately, this is now how you do it. Ali didn't start it off like that. He didn't start it off by, defaming people or anything like that.
He didn't?
Well, not in the sense of cussing people out.
Yeah, but he was talking crazy.
He talked crazy.
He talked crazy about Floyd Patterson. He talked crazy about Joe Frazier. He talked crazy about Sonny Liston.
Yeah, he did. Maybe I'm saying it wrong because he didn't use a lot of rough language, like, cussing people out and everything. He didn't do that.
I don't know. I can't roll. He was
braggadocious.
He likened Joe Frazier to a gorilla.
He did. This is very unacceptable.
If I was alive at the time, Muhammad Ali is the icon now, and obviously top 5 fighters of all time. But if I was alive, I actually would have been on Joe Frazier's camp because I don't.
You think you would have been with Joe Frazier?
I can't ever roll with the gorilla likening and I can't roll with that. That's not acceptable. That's not then calling him Uncle Tom and all this and the other. What are you doing?
It was really, really out of line.
And Joe Frazier is not a talker.
No.
And so then he knew he was at the disadvantage, which is why he went in there and gave him that left in Madison Square Garden that night and gave Clay a problem. And I never really appreciated that about his work. And Muhammad Ali came out later and said that that's something that he really regretted was the way that he treated Malcolm X and Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
And Joe Frazier never forgave him. Even when and if you see, it made him so bitter that when Muhammad Ali was in his last decade of his life, Joe Frazier was mocking him not being able to talk and move and walk.
Yeah, and that's not right either.
No, it's not right. But this is the kind of pain that he inflicted. And then beyond that, the platform that they both had, Joe wasn't using his to spread, infighting amongst the culture and this and the other. It's not right. And unfortunately, I do believe he's not only not a talker, he was also a Southern dude who recognized that how dangerous racism and those kind of innuendos and assumptions and that kind of implication is. And so he did not, especially this is a guy that you're letting borrow some money so that he can fight you.
Right.
And, I really don't think that.
And so basically Ali sold out at that point.
And he didn't know it because he was a young man, but he did. I think later in his life, he was more conscious about this stuff and more cognizant of the power and platform that he actually held. He empowered a lot of people. He gave a lot of people a lot of love, to believe in themselves and to be beautiful in their color and in their skin. And then that's a beautiful thing. But on this particular set, I can't roll. And I know I would have been with Joe because that kind of stuff rubs me the wrong way. Really rubs me the wrong way.
Rubs me the wrong way too. But what I'm saying is the profanity that these guys use and stuff is not called for.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Because I think that's a Floyd Mayweather thing because you never heard Ali coming out, MNF and this and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know, but I can't just attribute it to Floyd either. I think that this is a product of the culture in general because you look at how the culture has changed with the implementation of gangster rap. And like, if you listen to the music now and this and the other, everything is taking a turn for the profane. And
even the women
in that you now have, trash talking as taking an elevated, level in society, what society finds acceptable to even, to say in public.
Right.
Our mother talks about all the time when she was a little girl, her grandmother used to say, oh my goodness. Next thing you know, they'll be advertising toilet paper on television. And it was like the biggest taboo in the world to actually think that somebody would advertise something as personal as toilet paper. Well, we're well beyond that now. We're talking about erectile enhancement and all sorts of stuff. And this is just the progression, if you will, of society. And, I'm not a big fan of it, but in this situation, I think that if the Charlo boys want to tussle with Danny Jacobs, they're going to end up on their back. They end up asleep. Because they're just moving into 154 and Danny is cemented at 160. He could probably fight at 168 if he wanted to be honest.
He fought at about 175 tonight. We
sure did. And, this is the way of things. Now, we got a bunch of interesting fights coming up, and we'll cover those as they get closer to unfolding. But moving on, we're out here in the desert for tennis. And we've already had an upset. The very first day of the female competition, Maria Sharapova has gotten eliminated by Naomi Osaka. And what's interesting about that is the reason I pivoted to that is because she hasn't been the same since she's come back from her suspension from
PEDs,
whatever her thing was called. And she just hasn't been the same player. And she's still a draw, but she hasn't been the same player.
Right. And I think that's why they let her back in the league in the first place, because she's a draw.
You're right. Right.
Because she definitely got a slap on the wrist.
I don't know. I mean, she was out for a year.
Yeah, but they were talking about, banning her, right?
They were talking about banning her for life, but I don't know if there's a precedent for that. So, I mean, a year is a long time. And you can see, if anything, there's still potential ring rust just for her. She hasn't been able to play the competition level. I don't think it's because she physically can't do it. I think she hasn't, it's a kind of similar thing. We're not having rounds.
Right.
And you can't get out of practice because these young kids are ready to go. These young girls are coming out and they're ready to go get it.
There's a lot of superior athletes out there, women and women alike.
Yeah. And now we're looking at the return of the GOAT. Serena Williams is coming back, and she plays tonight. I'm very interested to see how she moves because a post-baby scenario is different than saying I got hurt or I'm taking some time off.
Yeah, it's not an injury. This is a natural occurrence as they would have it.
As natural as can be.
As natural as it can be. We go down to the grassroots of everything. And I don't know if she's going to have the stamina or the mobility. She definitely won't have it like she had it before. And I don't know if she can work herself back into playing shape like that, what she was before.
Wow. Questions for the champ. Well, she's proven everybody wrong several times before, and she dominates. That's what she does. And so we're going to see how she comes out and plays. Also, Vika Azarenka is back. She had her problems with a child custody battle that kept her out of the Grand Slam play for portions of last year. We got to meet the champ. It was very, very great. I really like Victoria Azarenka. And after she had a baby, she's actually super duper lean, which is interesting. And so this is going to be an interesting Indian Wells tournament. Looking forward to see, Federer, looking forward to see the Joker out there, and a lot of young boys, man. I think the guy to watch this year is Francis Tiafoe. Talked to, Sasha Zverev yesterday, and he's trying to get his game together. I'm pumped up. Tennis season is back, and we're moving into slam season shortly, and we're going to be on that clay out in the French Open in no time. Now talk to me about spring training. There's some guys that have landed. We've still got some guys that are outstanding. Why Alex Cobb doesn't have a deal, I don't understand. Jake Arrieta doesn't have a deal. Has Moustakas signed yet?
No. They're talking about him signing after the season starts.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And
that CBA is really getting those guys.
Yeah, they're paying for it.
They're paying for making a bad decision.
And, I mean, there's nothing that they can really do about it right now, because even to a certain degree where the commissioner has so much power, he can make changes without their vote.
Which is crazy. I'm really surprised because baseball, I would say, has the strongest union in all of
the world,
in all of maybe all the world, and definitely in professional sports. And so this is an interesting dilemma that they've gotten themselves into. But on a novelty tip, we saw something great happen yesterday, which is Shohei Ohtani of the Angels, the biggest signing of this free agent year, got carved because he got introduced to Uncle Charlie. He got introduced to the greatest curveball on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. And Clayton Kershaw fell behind him and came back with 4 straight heaters.
Yeah, he missed the cheese.
But that's what, as people are apt to do, as evidenced by his 250 plus strikeouts every year. And then he introduced him to Uncle Charlie.
He said he had to change it up, make it a little bit slower on him.
And afterwards they asked him, and he said, well, he didn't choose us, so good luck. Let me tell you something. Kershaw doesn't seem like he's mean this year. He got within 27 outs of winning his first world championship, which would then in turn cement him into the conversations of some of the greatest pitchers of all time. Without that ring, it's very hard to get to that conversation.
He's in the top 10 already. They have him ranked.
I understand what you're saying, but you know how people are. And you hear how people talk about Clayton Kershaw. And if you want to talk about people like yourself who watch baseball their whole lives, and I love Clayton Kershaw, I cannot take Clayton Kershaw over Jack Morris. I can't do it.
Yeah, and
because Jack Morris has shown me too many times
there's
in
a
the
few
big
people,
game.
and honestly,
there's a few people.
I would take probably El Duque over Jack Morris, which is crazy.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying.
Crazy.
It all depends, because El Duque was completely unhittable for that.
Completely unhittable. I mean, but the thing
but Jack Morris gave you 10 scoreless. 10 scoreless? Scoreless Williamson? Oh, what a game.
But when you talk about Kershaw during the regular season, there's like no precedent. It's like Sandy Koufax.
Yeah. It's him and Sandy Koufax.
I was thinking about his statistics the other day where he had maybe, as I pondered your statistics, I don't even think that he was to one point where he only had like maybe how many walks? 5 or something?
It was something silly.
That's unbelievable. If you've ever played the game of baseball.
It's like those guys who never strike out.
Yeah, it's like a video game.
It's like when you look at Tony Gwynn's numbers and you see he struck out 30 times an entire season.
Yeah,
it's 600 at bats.
600 at bats. That's crazy.
Nobody can get the ball by you.
That means that nobody is fooling you.
No, you see everything.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think it's even harder for a pitcher, especially when you have to go
sometimes you got to give in.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to
He's not giving in.
Yeah, and with his ERA usually around 2 something.
Craziness.
That's crazy.
Craziness. Talk to me about the moves that have been made. The Houston Astros are putting up runs in spring training right now, like the season never ended. I don't sense a World Series hangover from them.
I don't either. And Gurriel just got hurt, but he'll be back in probably a month. But they have a team that's built to last. They're not a team that's literally going out and getting another frontline pitcher. They have the great combination of pitching, speed, and defense with youth.
And power.
Yeah, with youth. I mean, how many teams?
Hands on.
Hands on.
It's a problem. They're a problem.
Yeah, I still feel like they're the best team in the American League.
They're a serious problem.
Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, Dallas Keuchel, Lance McCullers, and Charlie Morton.
And an effective Charlie Morton.
Throwing about 97, 98 the whole game.
Who's going to close the game? Because I keep hearing them flirting with Ken Giles still, and I don't like that idea.
Well, Ken Giles' numbers during the regular season was not bad, but
yeah, they weren't great, but they weren't bad.
Yeah. par for the closers nowadays.
No, but no.
But I wouldn't
not
go
for a
with,
World Champion. Not for a World Series.
I really don't like his work. I really don't prefer. I like for you to come in there. I don't want to see my guy who throws 100 miles an hour
walking guys on sliders.
Yeah, I don't even want to see you really throw that slider that much until you get 2 strikes.
Wipe out. I just need to see you wipe wipe a guy out with it.
Yeah, but he never gets into a situation where he can wipe you out.
He never is ahead in the count.
He's never ahead in the count. And so if you're never ahead in the count, how are you going to throw a wipeout slider?
Can't do it. I don't need to chase.
But you know what? They probably have some kids in the farm system that they can bring up. I felt like they probably, because I think Greg Holland is still out there, right?
I don't know if Holland is signed or not, but I read that fabulous article on Ichiro yesterday. If you guys haven't read it, go to ESPN and treat yourself to a heartbreaking but beautiful article about the baseball expert Ichiro Suzuki. It's really moving. It's really, really nice article. It talks about him and his upbringing and his dad and his regimenting and how him and his father don't talk anymore and how his mom works his finances and how he's taken one vacation over his career and it was to Milan and he felt as though it was way too much time off and he was gone for about a week or something like that. It's just a great article. Ichiro's looking to wrap up his career maybe in Seattle, but saying he's trying to play till he's 50, which he's always said. And, he's 44 now. It's going to be interesting to see what Ichiro is able to do. Last year he set I think he was 2 hits away from setting the all-time pinch hit record for a single season. Somebody's going to get hurt. That guy's going to get a chance to play, and he's going to be prepared because that's what Ichiro Suzuki does. He's ready to play.
He's always ready to play. I wish he could have got here in his prime.
Because I actually think he could be the hitting champion.
Yeah, and he would have been one of the best ball players of all time.
Yeah.
As he is already.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It'll just be more cemented. Yeah, he's going to the Hall.
Yeah, but he's
got close to 5,000 combined hits. He would have got his hits.
And it's very hard to find anybody who's committed to the sport like him, period.
Any sport.
The love of the game for him is like the level with Kobe Bryant in basketball.
Yes. Oh, congratulations to Kobe Bryant winning an Oscar. How about that?
Yeah, that's something special.
Wow, something special.
But you're talking about the next level. You're talking about the next level with Ichiro and his love for the sport. And some of the stuff in that article,
Oh man, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
That dude, he's committed. He's really committed. And so, what else you got? What else you got? News and notes running around the diamond. This kid in Chicago is making noise. You think he's going to end up breaking with the team?
The bad CBA once again strikes because these kids don't get their opportunity because of the CBA. If he's not on the 40-man roster, which I don't know if he is, he's not going to be on the team. And they want to keep these kids down for as long as they can now for that, so they can get that extra year of control.
This Cuban phenom playing for the White Sox, I can't remember his name. I think it's
Luis Roberts.
Yeah, Luis Roberts. He hit a game-winning salami in the 8th inning the other night, and he's tearing the cover off the ball. You got a bunch of young guys who are actually tearing the cover off the ball.
But he's not the jewel of that organization. It's Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But I'm saying there's a lot of guys, Acuna out in Atlanta. There's young guys who are ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when Coach Wedge was talking to us about that years ago, like almost a decade ago, when he was looking at guys, and back then it was Ben Francisco, who was ready to come up, and they have some situation where they're under pressure to not let them come up. And the CBA, man, it's dirty pool, because if you're one of these guys, unless you become like a Chris Bryant, and look at how it paid dividends for the Cubs. Cubs he literally took them to the World Series.
And the Cubs
won it.
Yeah, and the Cubs had Eloy Jimenez, and they were thinking about bringing him up just to showcase him so that they can send him to another team. And they actually ended up making that trade to the White Sox before they even had to bring him up. So then that helped them so that they could suppress his time. But he's considered I think in the top 5 or 10 of all baseball. He has power like Roy Hobbs. And
kid's got power like Roy Hobbs.
He's got power like he put out the lights last year in the home run competition.
That's funny.
Yeah, and now they're in a position where they don't have to bring these kids up, and it's not right. Especially when you talk about the Chicago White Sox, they don't have anybody playing anyway. So it's like it's like a AAA team up there right now. And one of the things I feel bad for is Jan Moncada, because he's struggling. And he was, a couple of years ago, he was considered the best prospect in baseball.
In all of baseball. Yeah. So much of this stuff is confidence based, and they take your confidence when you're not playing at the highest level. It's hard for certain guys to lock in.
Yeah. And
can you imagine a Kobe Bryant being stuck in the D League?
That had to drive you crazy.
And think about that. He would completely drive him crazy.
And you watch kids like that all the time. When they get the opportunity, some of the guys can execute and some of them can't, even though they might have the potential or talent. But it's just all about the situation that you put them in. Because if you bring up a guy that can swing the stick, but then you put him in the wrong spot in the lineup, he's going to have a problem. I really applaud the Red Sox because what they did with Benintendi the other year is that they brought him up and put him in a great spot to succeed. They put him up higher in the lineup so that he had protection, because most of the time those guys come up, they don't have protection. You put them at the bottom of the lineup and then they get carved up. And then you say, oh, you know what? This kid's not ready yet. But honestly, most of these guys, if you take protection away from them, there's not that many guys, even the big time stars, that can be successful without help.
Right.
You need that protection.
You need it. It's a generational guys who can play without that.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's so close to starting. I can't even believe it.
I know. I mean, with Ohtani, I really like him, but I like him more as a pitcher than a hitter.
I like him as a person because he actually laughed off the thing with Kershaw and was like, man, I've watched him pitch so many times that to be in there against him was unbelievable.
He's a kid.
Yeah. He goes, I took the curveball because I thought it was low. He was saying he didn't just devastate me. I am Ohtani after all. He's like, but I took it because I thought it was low. Yeah. Not just because I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
But you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that call against
You're never going to get that call against Kershaw.
And it was a borderline breaking ball, but it was nasty.
Wow,
that was unhittable. The only thing you could do is chop that thing in the dirt.
That's what he said. He said, next time I'll try to foul it off.
Good luck.
That's what Kersh said. Good luck.
Good luck. Because next time you probably just get some gas.
Oh, my goodness. Got a sad story to wrap it up with, and I don't want to bring anybody down, but I read this story in the LA Times yesterday that was just devastating to me.
What happened?
A South African triathlete was severely injured after assailants attempted to cut his legs off with a saw. A guy named Lengi Gwala, he's 27 years old. He's undergoing surgery. He's out training before dawn in Durban in South Africa. He's riding his bike up a mountain. Some guys pull him off of his bike, beat him down, and start to saw off his leg.
What's the purpose?
I have no idea. They don't know. And then they damaged his muscles, his nerves, his bones, barely missed an artery, started to saw off the other leg, and somebody came, and so they left, and he crawled to the road and flagged somebody down to take him to a hospital. Just wanted to send prayers out to this guy. Prayers and thoughts. This is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, that's a bad note to leave off on.
It's a tough stuff. Let's leave off on a positive then.
Football.
Ed Hockley's going to retire.
Yeah, Ed Hockley's going to retire. The buffest man in NFL history.
Man, bigger than Bo Jackson.
Right? Yeah, but you got a lot of trades. I mean, a lot of guys,
actions in the NFL.
They're blowing up the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman's supposed to be gone. Bennett's gone.
Bennett's to the champs. That's a big pickup for the Eagles.
Yeah.
You're adding somebody else who already has championship Super Bowl experience.
Jimmy Graham is gone. They're shopping Earl Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah, so what does Russell Wilson do? Does he go full time and try to play with the Yankees? Or does he just continue to hike the ball and run for his life and show supreme athleticism?
Right, or does he play on both sides of the ball?
No, he doesn't play. Nobody in the NFL plays on both sides of the ball.
Well, no, there is someone who does play on both sides of the ball. I think that kid in Houston, the Titans.
Very rarely, and no quarterback plays on both sides of the ball. But yeah, you got that. You got the Rams. Got rid of Ogletree. I don't know what they're making space for. There's a lot of moves. The NFL's trying to once again grab headlines in the NFL's always grabbing headlines.
Yeah, because they charged your boy $2 million. He had to pay the legal fees for Jerry Jones.
Oh, he ended up having to pay that.
Yeah, he paid.
You got to pay.
He had to pay it up.
Wow.
Godell then made him pay.
Wow. But that $2 million is like literally his lunch money. So
did you see Roger Goodell run his 40?
No, Roger Goodell ran a 40?
In a suit.
Really?
In the office.
And what was his number?
I think he had a 5.41.
In a suit? That ain't so bad.
No. And they said it's his best time so far. He does some kind of charity run with,
that's awesome.
I think with Rich Eisen or something.
Oh, that's awesome.
You should look at the footage. And he ran, I think it's a 5.41.
Wow. Man, they got some kids out there burning the combine, Jack. You saw that kid ran that 4.35?
Yeah. There's some serious burners out there right now.
Kids jumping
out the gym.
Out the gym, man.
I also saw a kid take a football off the face.
I saw that. He wasn't ready. And he became a meme. That ain't going to help you.
That's not going to help you.
It's not going to help your combine draft status. We won't name names. All right, folks. Well, we've been here with you, and we promise to be here more frequently with you, and we will be leaning into baseball and boxing, a little bit of tennis. I want to leave you with a quote. from an unknown source, but it is that wisdom is to live in the present, plan for the future, and profit from the past. Keep your eyes open, ladies and gentlemen. This is the OZone. We're sending you love and light on your podcast dial.
Ozone.
I'm just living the dream. I'm in love with the lights. This is not just a game.